Today is weather strip day for your Bricklin, and we're going to work on the door weather strip. There's too many Bricklins out there that leak water, and if you don't want it to leak water, we've got the weather strip for you at bighbricklin.com. This is the correct weather strip for your Bricklin. It will eliminate water and air leaks. This is not the correct weather strip for your Bricklin, and this is the standard that's on most Bricklins right now. Of course, this one's been put on with a lot of extra silicone. I'm not sure why they did that. That whole thing is improper. Use weather strip adhesive and not silicone. So we got the water leak covered all the way around and around the top hinges with this weather strip, but where's that air leak? We're going to show you that right now. Step over here. I put a flashlight right in the door opening, and we're going to shut the door and take a look down inside this corner right here. That does nothing to seal the air from leaking in. We're going to stick this flashlight in the car with the correct weather strip and shut the door. No light can be seen there. You can actually see the weather strip making it right around the corner. And if you're wondering, how does this weather strip keep water out of the top area around the hinges, I'm going to shine a flashlight in the crack, and you can see the weather strip completely seals at the top right above the hinges. So there's no need for any additional weather stripping around the hinges. This does a very good job. This car's been driven in the rain plenty of times. No leaks at the door. So what does this mean? We're going to put the correct weather strip on. We're going to show you how. Step on into the clean room and we'll start working on the weather strip. So we're going to need some gloves, because this stuff gets everywhere. And you're going to need some weather strip adhesive. 3M part number 08008. Or you can cut yourself a little paddle or use a wooden stick, as long as it's flat. Come on down here. Here's a cross section of that weather strip. And step on over here. Most of the cars are going to take the weather strip in this direction. Right like that. And that's going to do the job at the top and the bottom without interfering with the way the door shuts. So what we're going to do is put weather strip adhesive along the weather strip. Then we smooth it out. You can pretty much let it dry at this point. Then we're going to take and put that weather strip adhesive on this section of the door right here. And when you pull away quick so it doesn't make a string. Then we're going to smooth that out. Get that across that whole surface where that weather strip's going to grip to. If you need a little more, put a little more in. We're going to let that nearly dry. This is contact cement in a tube. And when we stick these together, as soon as that dries, when we stick it together, it's done. It's stuck. That's method A. Method B is let both of them dry completely. Wet one side a little bit, then stick it together, and you can't get it apart. Lay this stuff out in a loop on the table, and then we're going to come down here. I like these little guys, they're great. Alright, so then we put it on the weather strip just like I showed you on the samples. Smooth that out. Just make sure it doesn't land on the paper. Just continue on. Don't need a ton of it, just enough to make a layer across the section that we're bonding. Just work your way all the way around the door. Okay, now we gotta wait for that to dry a little bit. Okay. All right, did you do any more of this? So now we got our glued side here, and we're going to match that up very carefully here so I can see what I'm doing. Start right here. I put my seam towards the rear of the door, get it away from the VIN tag. Just looks better when the car is being shown. And then go over here, and it sticks. That's the way. Okay, we're gonna guide that in. Line it up. Guide that in, line it up. That's what it's supposed to look like. Right in there. Okay. Just as soon as it makes contact, push it down firmly. Push it down firmly. Make sure it's all in the right spot. Don't do this because you can stretch it. Just push straight down. And that ain't going anywhere. I could practically pick up the door with that. Well, maybe it would rip. These are pretty heavy. But that's in there pretty solid. Okay. We're going to go around the corner here. Make sure you get it in the corner. You got very little time. Once you try to attach it and pull it loose, see, this is the way it's gonna go around this corner here. That seals properly at the top. I'm moving the table around to make this easy. Do not stretch it. Okay. You land it right here. You got to get up and over in there. Okay. That's where you land it on the next corner. There's a ball stud on this. This has 76 doors on it. Do not cover the ball stud. When we get to the drain in the door, it bumps the weather strip up. Now I want to keep, it's trying to stick. There we go. I want to keep the weather strip level all the way across so it doesn't push the door up or over compress the weather strip. So I have to cut evenly with a fresh razor blade, the same shape as the drain. This is a little bit hit and miss, but you put a diagonal slice right somewhere in there. Put another diagonal slice in. And then you have to take a chunk of this out by cutting the top edge, or cutting towards the top with a drain is what I'm trying to say. You gotta cut that chunk out. On the back side and the front side. There we go. Don't rip it. You'll rip more than you want. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's not going to be seen. Then we have to add a little weather strip adhesive up here in that area. Then push this all down. There, now we have a weather strip that's much more flush. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but it just looks so much better than having it hump over, and it actually prevents binding of the weather strip when you're closing the door. Now when you get to under the latch section, you have to just put it straight across. There's no guidelines here, it just has to go straight across. There we go. Now we got one more drain to cut. Use that fresh razor blade, go around it. You might want to practice on a scrap because you are going to have a little bit left over if you're a little nervous about it, but just take your time. Try not to cut yourself because these gloves provide no protection for cuts. A little weather strip adhesive here. Really not a bad job to do. Hardest part's taking the door off because that's really the only way you're going to get this right. Okay, now when we get to the seam, I want to push back and compress it a little bit. I want to make as straight a cut as possible with this fresh razor blade, which is almost not fresh anymore because at 2 cuts it does dull rather quickly. So you make little sawing, just saw through it straight, try and get a 90-degree cut to the weather strip, pull back on it a little bit, just so the blade doesn't bind. There, whew, that came out pretty good. Now what we have to do is see if that's too short or too long. If I put it in here, that will work. That will work. That'll compress nicely. So what we have to do is the same thing we did on the door and the weather strip. Put a little bit here. Some manufacturers from the factory, Ford, GM, Chrysler, they'll super glue the weather strip. Okay, I don't really like that. This does just fine. Super glue is hard and doesn't compress. This stuff's flexible. We got to dry it. Get it to dry a little bit. Doesn't take too long. Give it about 30 seconds. Then you want to match it up perfectly. Can you see this right here? Straight above. Yeah, you want to match that up perfectly. Then push down. Wipe off the excess. Beautiful. That's nice. So here is what it should look like all the way around the door. This also gives you the opportunity to clean and paint the inside of the door. This is a weather strip that works really well on your Bricklin. I've had this on my Bricklin for 6.5 years. It's fantastic. After reinstalling the doors and making sure they are adjusted properly, leave the doors shut for at least 24 hours to relax the weather strip and allow them to conform to the door opening. This simple improvement will make driving your Bricklin more enjoyable. Thanks for watching this video.